Hi, I'm John Ryan.
And I'm JD Orr, and this is the College Handball Groundhog's Day podcast, a U.S. handball talk.
Oh, we haven't done one before. I hope this is just, do we need to play I Got You, Babe in the background?
No, I was just saying it's another year and another West Point title on both fronts. So
Well, that
men
is
and
true. From
women.
that
So
perspective, it is Groundhog's Day. That's for sure.
you know,
That's absolutely
almost
true.
almost identical to last year. In the men's side, it was West Point Black and Carolina last year, and was the same this year. And I'm trying to remember in the women's side if I think Carolina was in the final there as well. So, um, Black Carolina gold, men's, women's, first, second, third on both sides. So, history just repeats itself
From
there.
that standpoint, it is very much a repeat. Well, but before we talk college, let's briefly let's see if I get my figure out my share screen. If I have it messed up, JD, let me know. So I don't think I'm sharing screen when I haven't actually shared the screen.
Nothing to see quite yet. There we
There
go.
we go. Well, the USA men and women both winning the North American beach handball. I'll just run through the Instagram posting. I watched a little bit of the matches. I think they started on Thursday, and then uh, you usually can't hear. Let me see if I
Yeah.
can. Let me.
I think
Uh,
I saw there's a feature that you just have to enable desktop
okay.
audio or something like that. We'll deal with that for next time. But
Well, yeah. I watched some of the games, I think, on Thursday before my departure, but I didn't watch any while we were in Chapel Hill.
yep.
Um, it seems like it was a very workmanlike performance. I think the men had one game that went to shootout, but I think other than that, I think they uh, were
Took
two
care of business. Or too
two
imposing of a
sets
yeah.
each match. So not a big surprise. I think we've pretty much shown that we are the kings of Norfolk American beach handball. Um, and
Yeah, I think FBA said on his post that this is the three-peat for NORCA championships for them. So definitely shows a repeating history of dominance. To continue with our Groundhog's Day theme here, Team USA winning NORCA
well,
Beach Championships.
The women didn't win last time though, so they reasserted themselves. Like I said, I didn't watch any of the matches. Um, maybe Mexico has slipped a little bit. Puerto Rico has gotten better. Maybe I should go back and watch watch
Yeah,
some of them. But congratulations to them. Both qualifying um, for the World Championships in China, I guess. Uh,
when I think of beaches, I always think of China. That's definitely the first place I think of.
well, they do have quite a bit of long
They
coastline.
do, they do, they
Maybe you
do.
need a little, you know, work on your geography a
Yep.
little bit. The southern parts of China, I suppose, are pretty warm.
Well, it's just
Uh,
like when they went to, Kazakhstan or wherever. I was like, oh yeah, bumping beach metropolis over there in Kazakhstan. Or was it Kazakhstan
wasn't
or
Kazakhstan? It was where
it
they played
was
the Winter Olympics, I think.
okay. Oh, the one in
Um,
Russia.
yeah,
You're right. You're right.
but again,
Kazan,
kind of a
Russia. Yeah.
kind of a touristy area in Russia, so probably actually pretty nice. I think you need to broaden your horizons a little
Yeah.
bit and get a better geographic perspective.
Explore the
But
world. I try to do that every 2 years. I get my world exploration going. So
um, one little nugget on that, and I think they mentioned at one of the board meetings that I listened in on, they need to plan out their schedule better for beach handball. And it's probably not the US's fault. It's more of an IHF fault. But I mean, it's really just ridiculously jam packed. they've got NORCA, and then they got the Worlds within months of each other. Maybe North America they could you know schedule it earlier. I don't know. Then they've got like a beach tour thing in Brazil,
Hmm.
and then they're going to do the thing in London. Um, and I don't know
Paris,
what the
Paris.
finance and economics of it is, but I don't think they shell out money for beach teams to go to China. Maybe they do. Maybe there is some money for each of the teams, but I doubt it. I
Can't
don't know.
remember from when they went, a few years back. I think there was some small. It wasn't a full. Do not believe it was a full, coverage kind of thing like it would be for indoor. But I do think there was maybe travel was included or something along those lines, but not
Or maybe the
lodging, or
lodging, maybe
maybe
the
his
lodging
lodging's
is set up
included.
by
And yeah, I think something like that.
you
But
know, beach handball is not professional anywhere. Okay. Um, Makes it awful tough, for nations to send teams. I did see that St. Kitts and Nevis and Trinidad and Tobago, I think sent teams from both things, but it's just, it's perfect for those Caribbean nations, but even at the smaller teams, it's quite an expense to stack up. Because
mhm,
if you do qualify, then you got to pay for the worlds, and we have uh, uh, I think we have more means in the U.S.
yeah,
and athletes motivated to go represent their country, even if they have to pay out of pocket.
absolutely. And I look at, like you said, let's say you make it and everything's not covered, getting to China. It's not a cheap trip. So, you got to make sure everyone's dedicated enough to get to this stage and be prepared to get to the next stage.
All right, we still have a bunch of old topics to cover, but um, we keep having news coming in. But
Yeah, it's the
I've got
thing
a list.
people don't think about is that there's always something in handball. So,
We
John and I
we
got
never
plenty to
talked
talk about.
we never talked about the U.S. trip to Spain. We never talked
Oh
about
yeah.
Tyreek Hill. Uh,
Yeah.
there's we'll get to that eventually. Um, but let's delve into college nationals. Let's see here. I've been trying to consolidate all the results and stuff from the Instagram posts.
Yeah.
And I think Mike and I did a good job of kind of talking about the format and how it would proceed. But um, I thought we just kind of run through the tournament
Yeah.
and then have some different comments as to what occurred. Um, so Friday night, did you guys play a match Friday night?
The gray squad played Friday night.
Grace Scott played Friday night. Did you get a chance to see any of the playing matches?
I did. We watched the. I didn't watch. We didn't make it there fast enough for Carolina Pitt or Black and San Jose State. We caught a little bit of the. Actually, we did watch the some of the San Jose State Black game because I think that was at the same time as Gold and Air Force. Maybe it was a women's game, but uh, I was definitely, and I told Martin this, impressed with putting up 16 on West Point Black, in your first ever game, whether West Point Black, I didn't watch a ton of it, but that's a pretty impressive feat. And we'll probably talk about San Jose State and some of their key players later here, but
Yeah,
um,
definitely. That's the thing with college nationals, and I wrote an article and I was talking about Martin. Talked to Joey about setting up a team at Michigan. The right organization and the right recruiting could
yep,
very quickly win a national title.
yep, you know,
Absolutely could win a national title. Maybe beating West Point Black would be tough, but
in year one,
in year one, but 2 years, if you got the right dudes, you could do it. And Virginia very much came close to it. I think if Virginia had had a coach when they had their little run, they might have been able to beat West Point one of those years.
Yep.
But good on Pittsburgh and San Jose State, both decided to play play-in matches, but they came up short. North Carolina beat Pittsburgh 29-16, and West Point Black beat San Jose State 38-16. So they dropped down to Division Two. So Division Two became a 10-team competition, and Division One stayed a 5-team competition. Um, is a little bit of a Twitter spat between the infamous Max Lippman. Uh, when I talked about the West Point, somebody also, I can't remember his name, had like an assumption that West Point Gold was going to beat Air
Oh,
Force.
Kurt came in. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Kurt Schaefer. And I said, well, I don't know. To me, if I had to guess, it's probably a 50-50 match.
Sure enough, it
Sure
was
enough, that
right
came
down to the
right down to
wire.
the wire. Air Force did beat West Point Gold 29-28. Um, Max was saying, "Hey, how could West Point Black and Gold play each other in the final?" Because that's my biggest concern. I don't want to see a West Point Black and Gold
Yep.
final. Um, and After that loss, I was like, "going, probably not going to happen." Um, but let's talk a little bit about the group play and what the
Hmm.
heck. You're the Ohio State coach. You tell me
Yep.
about Ohio State.
Yeah, sure. So our first game, I'll just talk through our 3 games of Saturday. We had Air Force Gold and Black on Saturday, and woke up after watching Air Force Friday night. Felt like we had the game plan we wanted to have, and then I don't know what it may be, but I was talking with Gary Phillips about it a little bit, before we played them, about having the format of these, D1 versus D2, where all of your games now are crucial, very important games and against extremely, higher competition. So you don't kind of have that game to get the rust off of the travel of getting there. You got to get right to business right out the gate. And so we got in Friday night, so there's no excuses, but we could clearly we're not playing ourselves, playing the way we're used to playing against Air Force, and
And
Kavanaugh likes to
now
run
that you say that, Air Force playing that competitive match the
Friday
night
night.
before
Yeah,
probably got them in a pretty good groove as to what they
waking
need
up.
to do.
Yep.
And boy, um, you guys, you
Yeah.
guys got spanked.
Yep. There's no other way to put it. I mean, we uh, just really struggled to do much offensively. We weren't hitting the shots that we were getting the looks on. Whale, he's doing everything he can to keep us in the game with saves, but defensively they were ready to run and we weren't, and we didn't have a good rotation. And so that kind of really was the end of the story on that one for us. So it was a big beat down. So we had to get the morale back up, saying, "Hey, we're not out of this thing. If you win the next 2 games, you can still play for the championship," which is wild to think about. So especially after we go on and we play Gold, strong Gold team. We'd seen them play at Pitt, um, and it was a good hard fought
Let's
match.
back
Yep.
up a second. So you guys lost that game, and then Point Gold and Carolina, they played the 14-14 draw
Yeah,
that went
like
down to the wire. And
Gold
yeah,
had the lead, and Carolina comes down with 20 seconds left in the game. I'm thinking, and they're working it around. They're not finding anything. They're not finding anything. They're not finding anything. All of a sudden, they swing it around to right wing where they got a right-handed guy, and he throws this bounce shot right under the goalie's leg as the clock hits zeros, and you're just like, oh my gosh.
I
So
think I might have video. You can
yeah,
maybe continue on.
it was a very just I don't want to say that it was a dull game because it was truly back and forth, but it wasn't a ton of you know I don't know, I don't want to say it was all turnovers, but wasn't like anybody was making a ton of mistakes. It was just strong play on both sides. Um, but yeah, 14-14 is not what you expect. against those two teams. It was on the long court too, so maybe people were getting a little tired or something like that. But uh, definitely was a bit of a shocker, and hats off to Carolina because that kept them alive to make it to the championship.
Yeah, yeah. So, but good on you guys. Like you were starting to talk about, you guys came out and um, you were the better team against Gold there.
Yeah, I mean, it was
Uh,
a tie. It was, I don't think it was tied. I think we were maybe up one or two or something like that at halftime. It was still a very close game, and then we kind of slowly pulled away in the second half. And it's one of those things that uh, stuff's working, it's working. You get it clicking, and you could play the same team. That's why you always talk about best of seven series or something like that. And I think as we'll see from later on in the weekend, that gold team was kind of on par with where we were at, for the weekend, just with our roster, with what we had. But I think what's interesting is, how we divided it up between D1 and D2. Like, I think there was a true break between the D1 teams and the D2 teams. Like obviously Scarlet's played Pitt quite a few times throughout the year, good battles. Scarlet just is always, a couple steps ahead. So, uh, but we'll get to D2 later here.
sure. Yeah. And just as a side point, Air Force has that really good victory against you guys, and
Right.
then they you know they got beat solidly by West Point Black. Uh, I didn't see that game. I kind of guessed, now, you've got a match coming up against Carolina in a little bit that's going to decide, barring an Ohio State
Yeah.
Scarlet big
Black.
upset over
Yeah.
West
Yeah.
Point Black, is going to decide who plays West Point Black in the final. And so they get clobbered by West Point Black 42-22. And then against North Carolina in that showdown game, it's close at the half. I think they ended up being down by two, but the second half it was just all Carolina. And I spoke with Mike Kavanaugh. He was he was a little despondent, with that defeat. And
I'm,
I don't
I
blame
know a
him.
lot of our guys came to me and they're like, dude, Air Force guys are distraught after that loss. They were, I mean, it was real tough for them. So I don't
Well,
know
I
what
mean,
happened. I didn't get to watch it, but
it was solid defense by North Carolina and solid performance by pretty darn good goalie that we'll talk a little bit when we go through
Volkowicz,
the All
yeah.
Star team.
Yep.
Yeah. Um, and then you guys wrapped up the final, and again, crazy format.
Yep.
You guys
All
win that match, you're playing West Point Black again in the final.
Yep.
Talk a little bit
So
about that match.
yeah, we talked through it. We're like, look, this is your chance. Anything's possible. We're on the short court, so it kind of helps eliminate some of the running of West Point. And fatigue wise, it'll help us as well. But um, one of our key players and key leaders of the club, Charlie Harper, he got hurt uh early on in that gold game, and pretty much wasn't able to throw the ball. He got hurt at practice last week, like a week and a half ago or whatever, and just wasn't the same. And they kind of retweaked it in the gold match. So we tried to use him as a defensive sub in the black game, and it just
Uh,
wasn't working. And
I don't. Even in Hungary, when I saw him play in Hungary, he just didn't quite. I don't know what it was. It just didn't
wasn't
quite
himself. Yeah.
seem, um, up to what he was doing the previous year, at least from my
Yeah.
memory.
I think
And
it's a big piece of the surrounding cast, for him. Like, he really enjoyed playing with Matt and Sean, obviously, and so not having them, I think, in the backcourt with him is a little bit different. But either way, that game we were only down by five at halftime, which I'd say for the resources we had and everything was a pretty solid win. And I told the guys at halftime, I was like, look, we're not coming back from this unless you guys want to go crazy. You got to we got to have quick offense. We got to make steals. Got to be extra aggressive on defense. So I'm giving everybody, green light to halfway decent looks and ultra aggressive on defense. And if we lose by 30 at this point, we lose. We're going to lose either way. So I'd rather go down guns blazing, and it didn't work. So that's pretty much what happened. I mean,
Did you
I
think
think
about 7-on-6?
that's that's not ever in my equation. I am as much anti 7-on-6. I am it just does it's not even in my vocabulary. So whale would be very funny, but yeah, it's just too much chaos. We don't have enough consistency with our offense to move the ball safely to make that be effective.
Right. Well, let's move on. So there was the standings, and like I said, with the alternate format, um, losses were what factored in, and so Air Force finished North Carolina, uh, finished ahead of Air Force, and then Air Force finished ahead of Ohio State and West Point because they beat both you guys, and
Yep.
then you finished ahead of West Point because you beat them, and then and talk real briefly about your match on Sunday.
Yeah, so we woke up. We said, "Hey, we already played these guys once. Let's go, beat them again, so we can have a rematch with Air Force." And then, yeah, I think just general fatigue, because what was working against them previously wasn't getting the job done on Sunday, and they were just a better team. I mean, that's plain simple, fastest way to say it. That's
And
all I
and part of
got.
that I
Uh,
think is
just
conditioning.
yeah, I was
I
gonna
didn't
say
even
it's
see your match.
endurance. It's 100% endurance. So.
Yeah,
I mean, those guys were tired. The West Point guys definitely were tired, but you could tell, they weren't having to make as many rotations as we were. I mean, had to sub out key guys every couple 5, 5, 10 minutes, whereas they had key guys out there for 15 minutes at a time, and that's the difference. So being able to keep the best players on the court as long as possible.
and then they turned around. They beat Air Force. Got their revenge. Beat them in a pretty close match, 35-32 for third place. And then we got the gold medal match. Uh, good
You'll
on
have to talk
Carolina.
about it because I was
Yeah,
working the table on the other court, and I just kept getting up there. He said, "Hey, it's tied. It's close. It's tied. It's close." So.
yeah. It was it was close throughout. I really got to hand it to that Ohio State goalkeeper, uh, um,
You're
Jonathan.
the Carolina goalkeeper, Jonathan and Walker.
Yes, outstanding, outstanding job in goal. Um, they they did a little few tactic things. I think the 7-on-6
With
a
Jackson,
few times.
Dumbarello.
No, I mean not
Yeah.
7-on-6, but uh, they pressed a little bit and went two circles at times. It mixed things up a little bit. The other thing too is West Point missed some shots that they should have finished, and I think they had the crowd behind them. I think helped them at different times during the match. I actually have some notes, but they just overall it just towards the end, West Point was able to uh, pull away, right towards the end. But it was close throughout, and um, honestly, if Carolina had somehow won that match, that would have been one of the biggest upsets in collegiate handball history, in my opinion. But great match. Um, again, we always talk about it. I think it's a marketable product, you know, and it was a
I mean, a 23-20 score, that's a dogfight. I mean, that's probably the lowest scoring final we've seen in a long, I mean, as
yeah,
long as I can remember. So,
yeah. They played tough defense, and they had a good goalkeeper backing them up. Uh, made some nice stops. Um, so overall, let's finish up with the D1 tournament. Let's look at the All-Star team. say a few words there. I think we already talked about Nwokje. He's woke.
Yeah, they
He's
call him,
solid there.
what do they call it?
Um,
Hemathin? Hemathin? That's what they call him.
yeah, outstanding job. Gary Phillips, MVP of the tournament. Well deserved. Um, but I'm actually going to say he should be doing better. And
He,
maybe
he
maybe it's having to move over to the backcourt.
mhm,
Maybe it's a little bit of a little bit less
stepping up into
comfort.
Mark's spot. Yep.
Yeah, because Mark Miller, also outstanding player, with an ACL, not at the tournament. I mean, not playing. And you wonder how well they would have done with him in the match.
Yeah. Yeah.
They
Different
let's say
conversation a
this:
little bit.
either their best player or second best player, 1A and 1B with him and Phillips. Um, they were missing one of those guys, and they still won every game they played. Um, and again, really impressed with Nwokje at the goalkeeper. Talk a little bit about Dom, your player.
Dom is he's my pride and joy here as my lone successful recruiting effort to date. I reached out to him at an Instagram DM in high school, so for him to in year one make the All-Star team here and be the leading scorer is pretty
He's
cool.
a freshman.
Sophomore, he went to
Sophomore.
satellite campus his first year,
Oh,
so
that's right. Okay.
um,
Um,
so yeah, so more good things to come from him. Really solid player, gets it and cares about handball. So that's that's all I can ask for.
yeah. And a couple West Pointers and Jackson Tomarello and Jack Turney for Air Force.
I'll talk about
Well deserved.
Jackson real quick because
Sure.
that's one of the unique tactics you're talking about with Carolina is that he serves as their emergency goalkeeper, so he would go and put on a goalkeeper jersey and run the 7v6 while
Yep.
also being a normal starter in their backcourt. So it's a unique idea. I didn't see enough of their games to watch how effective it was or how he did with it, but I know that he's a solid player on their squad. So, and the rest of the black guys that they speak for themselves, I would say West Point black guys to be clear. um, but and I think Coach Kavanaugh talked about Jack Tierney. Is he a freshman? Is that what I thought? I heard him say.
I don't know.
Okay.
Don't know enough to
I
say
thought
one
I
way
heard
or
him
the other.
say he was a freshman, so good things for him in the future as
Oh,
well.
absolutely. Yeah. Um, my goodness, we're already down to 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Maybe I have to start playing longer. Well, I'll tell you what, well, let's talk about D2. If we don't get done with, to the women, we'll talk a little bit about the women's next time. Um, yeah, the D2 tournament,
Wild format as well. Anything is possible.
anything is possible. Um, I haven't been able to transfer everything over, but there were 10 teams in D2, and I can talk about everybody had a chance. Everybody but the four teams in the middle here had a chance to lose a match and still win the title. Um, but so it's sort of a double elimination, but not quite, and then not double elimination. You just follow the lines for
Yeah.
where the teams wins, with the solid one being the match winner and the match loser. Um, Everybody had a chance to win, so that's a good thing about it. Um, and a lot of competitive matches throughout. Very spirited play, all the different teams. What stuck out for you about the D2 tournament?
I think it's really just cool to see the handball across all these different teams and how competitive a lot of these games were. And I think that was something Mike talked about is just the competitive games, I think went from last year being the average goal differential being somewhere in like the 15 range or something like that versus this tournament being closer to like 5. So, there's a lot of, evenly even competition across teams, which was cool to see. Just overall, I'm real happy about our teams in the Trailblazer, conference that did pretty well overall, I would say. So Case, Miami, Ohio State, Gray, Pittsburgh. So definitely proud of those guys on my own personal bias. But big shout out to Olin and San Jose State though for coming in their first ever tournaments and actually playing pretty solid. And I also want to note how much SUNY Cortland improved from last year. Without their key coach basically and role model for the club, Deb. She went back to Germany. She actually went to Africa on like a teach handball abroad thing. But the Dragons at SUNY Cortland were pretty solid. A lot of good athletes. They just need some direction. And Auburn. It's one of those things that it's tough. I think post post residency for them to still get over that hurdle of getting things right on track of getting back to where they once were. I think.
Well, the teams marched through the tournament, and we had two good semifinals. I thought OSU versus Pitt and James James Madison versus San Jose State. Pitt and JMU made it to the final with Pitt coming out on top in a very spirited match. They were kind of the darlings of the tournament. Everybody cheering for them. I don't know what they did
It's just Greeny,
to be
man.
so.
He's a nice guy.
Yes, yes. Well, let's go ahead and since we got about 5 minutes here, let's go ahead and talk a little bit. So Pitt wins the title. James Madison in second. San Jose State taking down your Ohio State gray side. And here is the All-Star team. Let's talk a little bit about Joseph Coe. And I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but he played with the Cal Heat League in high school. I think he also learned a little bit about the game in Taiwan before he moved. So I think he already kind of sort of knew how to play, and then he got better in that league. Um, he was a big part of their San Jose success. That's for sure.
Yeah, I would say he was on a different level than almost everyone else in the division. I mean, Greeny is definitely a excellent player. I think the two of them on a
Just for
team
everybody out there,
together.
he's talking about Zachary
Sorry.
Greenstein,
Yes.
who
Yes.
also made the All-Star team, and then Marcus Washington, also a pretty good player from Pitt. But I would say Zach Greenstein is a little bit behind Joseph Cole, but
Yeah.
solid player. And
But
Luke
those
Bush,
two as a left back right back combo would be very entertaining.
and Luke Bush from James Madison. I was also impressed with his play.
He runs
Um,
marathons for fun, so makes sense that he was able to stay out there pretty much that all game every game. So
yeah, definitely. Um, but here we'll just touch a little bit on this. Joseph Coe he actually goes to University of Southern California, and I I personally I don't have a whole lot of issue. Brand new team, let's
yep.
add some players.
Per the rules, it's the closest school, in proximity. So it's
Are there
whatever the
official U.S. Handball
I
Union
I don't know. I'm just
rules?
saying from what the rules used to be, it was if you didn't have a team, it's the closest team to you, and so that checks out.
Yeah, you know, but at some point, and I think he already wants to start a team up at Southern Cal, which years ago, even before my time,
Yeah.
had a team. Um, uh, but maybe Division One, if you got your team snagging somebody from another school, and he looked like if Ohio State had lost to them in the D1 finals, would you feel the same way if uh,
If they had a secret weapon, it's a little, yeah, it hurts a little bit. That's where, previous years we had kids like that were eligible, technically eligible. They were, in grad school year or whatever it may be. I mean, Sean Sterrett's still a student at Ohio State currently, but I'm not going to bring him back to put them on the team because I just think that's unfair to the other schools that we be playing against. If we were to win, it's just I don't want that asterisk. So, me as a competitor to that, I wouldn't want the other team to have a secret weapon. So illegitimate, maybe not
Yeah.
secret weapons, not because it's very known, but
For D
I
two,
just
that's fine though. I
yeah,
mean, um, but and maybe one of the things we'll talk a little bit more, next time, uh, is the format and what
yep,
we can do to um, improve it. And you know what I am. I'm a big fan of the less is more.
yep,
Uh, I really think that we should think about a single elimination, um, Elite Eight or something.
yep.
Um, but maybe that's something we'll have to have to delve into more next time. We got just about a minute left, JD. Any other top level thoughts on the tournament?
No, I mean, I think overall, it was a very physical tournament. I think the physicality was higher than I'd ever seen. What was allowed, I think, in some aspects. I definitely need to go back and read the rule book in my own stance. But overall, I think everybody had a solid time. You know, some people were mad things go behind, but that's the nature of the beast with a massive event like this. So it wasn't too terrible, but overall good time. Lost a lot of good things. So
Yeah, I thought it was a great tournament. I do agree. I'm a big believer in the splitting up into two divisions, and I think it's fine for everybody to play maybe one game where they play against that tougher side to kind of measure themselves,
yeah,
but no more than one.
yep, yep,
And
exactly.
and it's good to play against other teams. People were learning out there, and really appreciating the game. I think a lot of people left that tournament with a greater love for handball and looking forward to playing again next year.
Yeah, yep.
All right. Well, for JD Orr, I'm John Ryan, and thanks for listening.